All right, so we're going to try this old cutoff wheel and see what it'll do. All right, guys, welcome back to Hobson's Choice Harleys. We're moving on with the Knuckle again today. We're going to do a review and then do some fun stuff today. Wanted to get a shout out to everybody out there who's been watching the videos. Me and my partner in crime started this about 6 months ago, and we've gotten just thousands of views on everything. Like to hit you all up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You don't know what that does to help the channel grow and keep going. So we appreciate anyone who has subscribed, and ask anyone who hasn't to subscribe. We really helps us out to keep the channel going. Also, really appreciate all your comments and everything that you've told us about, asked questions, commented good, bad, or indifferent. It's just nice to be an active channel and an active page, and can't do that by myself. So really appreciate all you guys' input. So we're moving on with the Knuckle. There's our seat. I think we touched base on the seat, and I've got it marked for our sissy bar angle, which is, if you look from over here at a side angle, this angle and the angle of the forks are almost identical. So my buddy Doc said that's really what you're shooting for, and just luck of the draw, that's where she's going to land. So we're going to move this out of the way. I cut the mounts off for the gas tank. So we didn't get that on film, but that's probably what we're going to be working on today, is taking this whole frame outside. All of this has to be ground down. All of this has to be ground down. And I do have the new mounts. So these are the new replacement factory mounts that will go right here. That will hold the dash the way it's supposed to be. This will hold the tanks so that I can run a stock 3.5 gallon tank. Very similar to the Miami Vice tanks. Those are stock 3.5 gallon tanks. You can also see right here, I had to notch. They did this gusseting webbing in here in the 60s, which is a cool setup, but the tanks were hitting right here. So I had to clearance this. I've got to clearance the other side the same way, and then we're going to have to weld all of these mounts on here. But to do that, all of this slag has to be ground smooth. And I hit it a little. This Bondo was like a cloud of dust in here. So probably we're going to clean up the shop a little bit here, and we're going to back this thing outside and start grinding all this stuff off today. And we'll get some of that on video. It's not real riveting video, but we'll get some. What is kind of riveting is I'm going to show you guys. There's my cases. So I got my cases back from the blaster. For being 82 years old, they cleaned up pretty well. So we're getting real close to an engine build. And just because I couldn't resist, there she looks like a motorcycle, or she's starting to. So that's pretty cool. In fact, I did send a couple guys pictures. I put the cylinders in here and set one of the heads on there just to see. And boy, this is going to be a really cool sled when she's done. So we're one step closer. So I have to have my machinist buddy machine these decks, because this side is a little higher than the stock side. This is a replacement case. So I do have to take about 20 thousandths off of the top of these. Basically, this is 20 thousandths of an inch higher than this deck. So that gets surfaced, and then it's time to do the truing on the flywheels and set the bottom end, which I'm going to go up to Colorado and do that with Doc Welbon. Excited to build my first lower end. I've never done a lower end and trued the cranks, and definitely going to be the next level, so to speak. So exciting stuff here at HC8. There's the back of my seat mark right there. So I need to figure out where to drill that hole to hold this. Oh, the other thing I didn't tell you guys about is here's my Invader. So there's my Invader wheel. It's back from the machine shop. I had to have custom bearings or custom spacers inside that bearing. And then I had to have this custom spacer built, which is actually 3 different spacers welded into one. So that rides there, which will allow me to run my mechanical brake. So I'm running a mechanical brake system on this is a hydraulic brake hub. So that's kind of a hybrid, and all of that is put together on an aftermarket Invader wheel. So you want to talk about some ingenuity. There we go. So that's going to work. So this all has to be put on the frame. But I think for the interim, we're going to clean up all the stuff off the table. We're going to push this thing outside and start doing some of the grinding. This is all the dry fitting. So I got to grind all this off. I've got to cut this seat post mount off. So what I have to do is build brackets and stuff. What I don't want to have to do is typically there's one bolt back here that holds this sissy arm in place, okay? Well, I want the bracket for the seat on there. Typically, you drill a bolt through the underside of the fender into the seat, and then you have this through bolt that holds the front of the seat. But if you ever have to do anything, you've got to take the whole fender off to do anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tab on the seat here and a tab on the seat here and machine it with a double through bolt and nut, so that if I want to take that seat off, I pull a nut here and a nut here. I can pull the seat off, I can get to the battery. I'm just trying to make it more maintenance friendly. So we're going to pull some of these parts off and get this thing outside and shower the neighborhood with dust. The other exciting news here at Hobson's Choice Harleys is 6 months I've been fighting with the county officials. I got zoning approval, I got the drainage approval, and I get my occupancy permit on this building Wednesday. So then game on, guys. I can finish my pegboard, I can get all this crap off the floor hung up, I can get lights run, actually make a semblance of a real shop out of this place. So that's like so exciting for me, is to be able to move in and make this a real shop instead of a catch-all. All right, so we're just getting this out here so that all the dust can stay out here. She goes from looking more like a bike to looking less like a bike. So again, we just threw these bars on there. I'm going to grab my grinder and we're going to start grinding stuff. Okay, so that goes away, and hopefully all this goes away. And then we're going to end up putting a hole and a tap in here for threads, but one piece at a time. Here we go. One good thing about having an aftermarket frame, even though this is a very old aftermarket frame, it's not a 41 Knucklehead frame. You wouldn't just take a grinder and start whacking parts off a 41 Knucklehead frame. But a 69 or a 70 jammer frame, game on. I'm chewing up my bit here. Oh, all right. So my back wheel I just had sitting on there. Probably should have put something on there. In fact, let me grab the nut for that axle. There, just enough to keep that wheel centered or keep it from falling off of it. All right, so if you see here, this is all Bondo. So they've put these webbing or gussets in, which is the 60s thing to do, is very cool, but then they've Bondo to this. So I got to get all that Bondo and crap out of there. And then my seat is actually probably going to be threaded way up here. That's part of why I wanted this thing out on its wheels, so I can set that seat in there and kind of get a feel for where I want the seat, how high I want the handlebars. Got a little piece here. I don't know how much of this is that old mount and how much of it's webbing. So okay, enough to get started. At least it's out of the way. Our brush, our wheels getting eat up. I'm going to see if I got a slap brush. Slap brush would work a lot better on this, but I'm not sure if I've got one. Let me check. All right, so we're going to try this old cutoff wheel and see what it'll do. Okay, so you can see it's a little rough. It needs cleaned up, but I'm just trying to get the old mounts off. And then I'll smooth it down a little less aggressively and then wire brush it. And this has all got to be exposed so I can weld to it anyway. Now we got to figure out what's going to happen up here with all this nasty. And of course, I've got this Craftsman cutoff wheel that was from the probably late 60s. It's an old beast, but it still works. Okay, we're getting more and more of this out of there. Gotta be careful, she's a little warm. Just trying to take little bites at a time. I can't wait for the comments on this. You guys that are metal workers are gonna give me grief. I'm not a metal worker, but we'll figure it out. All right, so now we're gonna get that mount and see if she sits a little flatter on there. And I'll probably bring the seat out too and just get a feel for, I haven't set on it with that seat. So first things first, where's our mount? Oh, look at that. Now what I don't like is I need to get this up to about here. So I'm gonna have to take this off, but that is gonna fit. If you can see the curvature of the frame here, she fits it. So that's weldable. I just need to get it forward an inch. So baby steps. Oh, and I also got to cut the channel this out and clearance this too. Let me clean this up a little more and then I'll get the other grinder back out. Well, that does it. We weren't sure if I was going to paint the whole frame or just touch up. Guess what? It's a paint the whole frame type of deal. But to get this stock mount on here where I can run an actual stock knucklehead dash with the speedometer, whether I go cat's eye or the panhead style, I'm not sure, but these are universal. This is for your speedometer cable. I'm not drilling a hole through there. I got 8 bikes and only one of them has a speedometer, and it's the old ladies, so I'd care less about speedometers. But I do want to use I've got a brand new set of aftermarket 3.5 gallon tanks, or I have the tanks off Miami Vice, which are a stock 3.5 gallon tank. So I want those fat bobs on there. And the only way to get them on there with this jammer frame was to do what we're doing. So I'm gonna grab the other grinder and we're gonna keep whacking parts off. All right, so this cordless stuff is nice because you're not tied to a cord, but grinders really chew up the power. It's close, which is funny. The other brackets that I took off the other day are what held the tank up here. I don't even know what those were for, and else they were some sort of fork stop bolted to keep you from having your handlebars hit your tank. I don't know exactly what was going on there. That's the one right there, baby. That is the one. So what I'll have to do is clamp this, maybe bungee cord it right here. Then I can set the tank on there and get me some markings for where the back mount goes and make sure my dash is going to clear. All right, so if you're looky there, that should be pretty close. So we're going to, actually I'm going to hold the tank up there and make sure that we're clearing the neck. And then we're going to put the dash bezel over that and make sure that's going to clear. Okay, so see, these are stock tanks and they're channeled for the frame. So if we did this anywhere close to correct, we should be able to nail that just like that. Now if you look, that hole lines up. This hole's pretty close. This hole's going to line up. That's off a little bit. So I need to decide which tanks I'm going to use because I do have a new aftermarket set and their holes might be a little different. This was part of the frame. I do have the stock mount like this that goes in here, but I'd like to just leave that so I don't have to cut the frame up any more than I have already. So let's see if I've got a dash handy we can eyeball. All right, and I know you guys are going to say, hey, that's a panhead dash, and you're right, it is. It's the dash that came with the Knucklehead. It's kind of funny, this is a totally different bike, but look at how close the blues are. I mean, they're off a little, but Interesting. And then you put Softail Sally next to it, and she's almost the same color too. If we were to put that right there, not too worried about the back yet. We got that right there, and we put that dash. She's close, man. Now I want to try and turn the handlebars and go the other way with them. Yeah, so it's gonna work, man. And if you see these tips here hitting, because this frame is so wide here, probably what I'll do is I'll shave these tips here and here. All right, so that's pretty cool. So probably, since I have the availability, what I'll do is I'm gonna take this back down the frame, oh, 1/4 of an inch. Huh. Yeah, those bars ain't right. But the seat isn't too bad. Yes, so if I've got a tab out here bolted here, I got plenty of room for that seat and those tanks. Game on. Okay. So I'm going to leave that seat in place, and I'm going to bring that tank back and see if I got a Sharpie where I can mark where I want that. Okay, well there ain't any too much room there. So let's see if you can tell when that tank is on there, like so. Wow, okay. So I'm fighting it a little bit. I've got this back bracket kind of right in the way. I got that bolted there and that bolted there. Okay, you can see those tanks come right down to the edge of the seat, which is good. That's fine. So we got these tanks here. These are the ones I think that are going on the 41. So we're going to go and dry fit one of these too and see if the mounts are similar. I did have these out when I first got them, and I did a pressure test on everything, so I know they hold. And they're a little greasy, grimy, which is nice. They put oil in there to keep them from rusting. Nice, clean, new set of tanks. So we're going to take that mount and see what the difference between these tanks and the other tanks is, because I'm going to have to build this up. We do this number. Is if you look at that, that's a stock mount, and this is actually for the steering dampener pin. That would do it. So that's what's coming next. Cut, cut, cut. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Appreciate all your comments. All right, so there we go. That's about the third dry fit. She looks pretty close though, huh?
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, comment what you guys think. Let me know if you have any suggestions for video ideas or topics you guys want covered, and I'll do my best to include those in my next projects. You guys can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to check out the Beacons link in the description below. See you next time.